Good morning, everyone. So we've passed through the night, descended into the world of falsehood, and Aswapati has found the secret key of nature's chain and been cast up. He doesn't have to travel or move or pass through any intermediate stages. He's cast up into the paradise of the life gods. So that's the canto that we'll read. But before we start, I just want to draw your attention. I have put out these little leaflets. Savitri Bhavan is more or less entirely dependent on donations, and we have expenses of about 4 lakhs a month. So we need the goodwill and help of all of you to keep everything moving here the way it should be. Any help you can give, particularly if you can manage to give some regular monthly help, that will be nice. And any of you who are running units, if the unit can offer something, any of you who've come from centers outside, if your center can send something, that will help us a great deal. I also have something else to show you. Because of this these cantos we've been reading, people have asked me, how does all this evil come into the world? And why is it here? And why does God allow it? So there's this little book, The Riddle of This World. It's not a very costly little book. We can get it from Shabda. And The Riddle of This World. And it is some writings of Sri Aurobindo that have been written in answer to that question precisely. So that's you can get it in Sabda. Probably here you can get it at Visitors Center if you ask them. I will also be stocking at our information desk. I'll just read the last lines of Canto 8, page 232. I'll just read the last few lines. Then life beat pure in the corporeal frame. The infernal gleam died and could slay no more. Hell split across its huge, abrupt facade as if a magic building were undone. Night opened and vanished like a gulf of dream. Into being's gap, scooped out as empty space, in which she had filled the place of absent God, there poured a wide, intimate, and blissful dawn. Healed were all things that time's torn heart had made, and sorrow could live no more in nature's breast. Division ceased to be, for God was there. The soul lit the conscious body with its ray. Matter and spirit mingled and were one. Shall we start at the top today? Tuan, would you start?
Canto 9, the paradise of the life gods. Around him shone the great felicitous lustre of some rapturous infinite. It held in the splendour of its golden love, regions of the heart's happiness, set free, intoxicated with the wine of God, immersed in light, perpetually divine, the favorite and intimate of the gods, obeying the divine command to joy. It was the sovereign of its own delight and master of the kingdoms of its forms, assured of the bliss for which all forms were made, unmoved by fear and grief and the shocks of fate, and unalarmed by the breath of fleeting time, and undeceived by adverse circumstance. It breathed in the sweet, secure, unguarded ease, free from our body's frailty, inviting death, far from our nature zone. It needed not to curb its passionated beats, thrilled by the bliss of the one satisfied sense, and the swift wonder rush and flame cry of the life impulses red, magnificent rays. It lived in a jewel rhythm of the laughter of God. Lay on the rest.
Thank you, Karen.
In you The unfettered spirit of light plastered his gleaming sunbirds and moonhooks along the lyric speed of briefless strings in fragrance of the unearthly aspect. The silence of felicity wrapped the heavens. A careless radiance smiled upon the house. A murmur of inarticulate ravishment trembled in the winds and touched the enchanted soul. Incessant in the arms of ecstasy, repeating its sweet involuntary note, the soul of rapture flowed along the hour. Advancing under an arch of glory and peace, traveler on plateau and on moving bridge, as one who sees in gross magician's glass miracle imagery, soulscaped the traversed scenes of an immortal joy and gazed into the visions of beauty and bliss. Around him was a light of conscious suns and a brooding gladness, a great symbol. To meet him crowded plains of brilliant calm, mountains and violet valleys of the past, deep glens of joy and crooning waterfalls and woods of quivering purple solitude. Below him lay like gleaming jewel floats, wrapped dreaming cities of Gandhara kings. Across the vibrant secrecy of space, a dim and happy music sweetly stole. Smitten by unseen hands, he heard heart close, the heart's cry, heavenly minstrels pass, and voices of unearthly melody chanted the glory of eternal love, right in the moving era.
Will you read, please?
The summit and core of all this marvelous, a powerful Elysian nameless peace, dawning like sunsets in a transport, as if to some new associate profundity, into a joyful stillness plunged their days. Their throats stood a cry of laughter, and was closed by a tone of singing tribute, adoring blue heaven with their creativity, down into woods of shadowy secrecy, lifted into wide waters mystery. Their feet run toward the greatness beyond the shining events of their vital days. Receive your day, blessed heart. All things were perfect. Their flower, beauty, was a creation making, and peace was a great voluptuous good. Their love fulfilled for God and always good, and strength the throne, mightiest rivers, desire from a seat, opportunity, and pleasure at the statue of the Lord. Wings walk along the highways of the star. Sweet commerce things turn into miracles, overtaken by the spirit silence, sinking by the divine freshness of the faint sails only as form the question to turning the unseen with heaven and earth.
Thank you. Will you read? Larry?
All life's high visions are embodied there. Her wandering hopes achieved, her aureate callings caught by the honey-eater's darkening tongue, her burning guesses changed to ecstasy truth, her mighty pantings still in deathless calm, and liberated her immense desires. In that paradise of perfect heart and sense, no lower note could break the endless charm of her sweetness. Ardent and immaculate, her steps are sure of their intuitive flow. After the anguish of the soul's long strife were found calm and celestial rest, and lapped in a magic flood of sorrowless hour, healed were his warrior nature's wounded limbs in the encircling arm energies that brook no sting and feared not their own bliss. In scenes forbidden to our pallid sense, amid miraculous scents and wonder hues, he met the forms that divinize the sun, to music that can immortalize the mind and make the heart wide as infinity listen. and capture the inaudible cadences that await the occult ear. Out of the ineffable hush, it hears them come, trembling with the beauty of a wordless speech, and thoughts too great and deep to find a voice, thoughts whose desire new makes the universe. A scale of sense that climbed with fiery feet to heights of unimagined happiness, recast his being's awe, in joy glow, his body glimmered like a skyly shell. His gates to the world were swept with seas of light.
Thank you. Who's next?
His earth dowered with celestial confidence, harbored a power that needed now no more. Cross the close cutting of mind and flesh and smuggled Godhead into humanity. It shrank no more from the supreme demand of an untired capacity for which a mind that could explore its own infinite and beauty and passion and the depths with love, nor feared the swoon of glad identity, where spirit and flesh in inner ecstasy join, handling the quarrel between self and shape. It drew from sight and sound spiritual power, made sense a road to reach the intangible. It filled with the supernal influences that build the substance of life's deeper soul. Earth, nature stood reborn, comrade of heaven.
Thank you. Ganga Lakshmi?
Sorry, but I don't.
Okay. Sonia, will you read? No? Let's come down a line. Francis? No? Then we'll let Andres read.
The companion is the timeless kings, equal with the Godheads of the living sons, image in the radiance pastimes of the unborn. Heard whispers of the player never cease, and listen to his voice that steals the heart, and draws it to the breast of God's desire, and fell its honey of felicity. Those rich days, like the rivers of paradise, make body a nectar cup of the absolute. In sudden moments of the living flame, in passionate responses half unveiled, you reach the rim of ecstasies unknown. A touch supreme, supervised,
Surprise!
his hurrying heart. The clasp was remembered of the wonderful, and hints deep down of white beatitudes. Eternity drew close, disguised as love, and laid its hand upon the body of time. A little gift comes from the immensity, but measureless to life its gain of joy. All he untold beyond his mirror there. The giant drop of the bliss unknowable overwhelmed his limbs, and round his soul became a fiery ocean of felicity. He found her, drove in sweet and burning vast, the dire light that could shatter mortal flesh, the rapture that God's sustained he bore. Immortal pleasure brings him in its waves, and turned his strength into undying power. Immortality captured time and carried life.
Thank you. This is the last canto which deals with the worlds of life. The first one is Canto 3, the glory and the fall of life. And we've read Cantos 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And now we've come to this last one, Canto 9, the Paradise of the Life Gods, which is one of the shortest in the whole book, maybe the shortest.
The Christian paradise is this?
I don't think so. What does he say? This is the shining Edens of the vital gods, the life gods, the paradise of the life gods. I think this sounds much nicer than the Christian heaven. But our imagination of that Christian heaven is very imperfect. No? It's described like a world with a landscape. At the center of it, these high mountains, and then the slopes coming down, a few of the beings who inhabit that world. And the effect that this experience has on King Aswapati, all those terrible wounds that he has borne, endured, passing through the worlds of night and falsehood, get heal. And he experiences the delight the gods sustain, which our human bodies normally aren't able to sustain at all. Immortal pleasure cleansed him in its way. It's an interesting thought, because we usually think of pleasure, as something undesirable that is probably polluting in some way or another. But this is pleasure which is purifying, strengthening, turned his strength into undying power. Immortality captured time and carried life. So let's go back to the beginning and look in more detail, sentence by sentence. You want to start, Anandi?
Paradise of the light God. Around him shone a great felicitous day. Lustre of sun rapture infinite, held in the splendor of his golden love. Regions, the heart's happiness set. Intoxicated with the wine of love, immersed in light, perpetually divine. Favorite and intimate of the gods, obeying the divine command to joy. It was the sovereign of its own delight, and mastered the kingdoms.
Thank you. Anybody would like to ask anything about these lines? Yes.
Intoxicated, for me it's negative, and I understand how it can be in relationship with the life.
Yes. So the wine of God is the wine of pure delight and immortality. And it's intoxicating also, not in the sense that it poisons us, but that it takes us out of ourselves, makes us in a way drunk with delight. The Greeks knew about this kind of wine. It was that was the wine that the gods drink, the amrita that keeps them ever youthful, the nectar, and that's what they worshipped in their gods. God Dionysus, whom the Romans debased a bit and made into Bacchus, also the god of wine. His orgies were a bit more down to earth, perhaps.
After my background, but I feel that she said the wine of God isn't the metals, the Christianity. I mean, somehow it's something else in the wine. The Christian also is the metal. I don't know.
Later on, he links this with the idea of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna. He is also the god of delight.
Mira and Chaitanya, they were dancing with joy and delight and pleasure.
Intoxicated with delight, yes.
You can say that.
It's a soma.
No, they didn't drink anything, but they were dancing with joy and pleasure and with the divine union,
Yes.
Can we relate that?
Yes, surely.
Nothing?
And then we would say that they were intoxicated with the wine of delight.
Yeah.
They haven't physically taken anything in. Psychologically, they've taken in that intoxicating.
I think here it means mainly not something materially drinking
Yes.
something, but it is
Something different, yes. Yeah. This is the heart's happiness set free from all the limitations we suffer here in the material world. Immersed in light, perpetually divine, no possibility of fall. This world is a favorite and intimate of the gods. It's a world that they love, the gods, the cosmic powers. And that world obeys the divine command to joy. It's a command that we often lose touch with here in our mixed world of pain and pleasure. That world was the sovereign, the ruler of its own delight. It doesn't have to depend on any other power, master of the kingdoms of its fall. Is that where we stop? Yes. Are you getting wet up there? Okay. Hard to hear because of the noise. So we can just pause a moment and enjoy the delight of the sound of the rain, the delight that all those plants, newly planted plants today, are enjoying as the rain comes down to bless them. It's that world. It's the equivalent of this great felicitous day in the first line. Yes. Where does the change come? That paradise. That where is that paradise? Yes. Yes. We'll just wait a moment. I don't think it's raining in. Is it raining in? For the noise. I think it will slacken off in a moment. Over the last few cantos, King Aswapati has been looking for the origin and remedy of falsehood, suffering, evil. And he's gone right down into the bottom, into all the terrible lowest levels of the human or the cosmic life being. On page 231, line 405, he got right to the very bottom. He stood on the last locked subconscious floor, the lowest level of consciousness, where being, the pure existence, is sleeping, unconscious of its thought. Existence is always conscious and actually full of bliss. But when this unconsciousness comes, so it's been building a world not knowing what it built. That's how this distortion has come in, through the unconsciousness. But there, right at the very bottom, there he realized that the future is waiting, lay unknown. That there, right at the very bottom, the root of things, lies the record of the vanished stars, all those truth lights that seem to have gone out. There, in the slumber of the cosmic will. Slumber is sleep, in a deep sleep of the will that has manifested the universe. Aswapati saw the secret key of nature's chain. It's a very crucial line in this part of the poem. He saw the key, and as soon as he sees the key, everything changes for him. This is not a universal transformation. This is a transformation in his consciousness and his experience. But it's a wonderful transformation, which is described in the next page and a half. And it's that consciousness, the fact that he has that consciousness in which there's no contradiction between God and nature, between spirit and matter, where it is all blissfully one. Suddenly, he's in this paradise of the life gods. It's as if he gets projected, up into that other world. And that's a very healing and purifying experience. He's endured all the worst that earth consciousness can impose on an individual soul. He's had the strength to survive that, to refuse it, to refuse to submit to all that falsehood and evil. And now he has this experience of the griefless life. Actually, he's been looking for that griefless life for several cantos, since Canto 3. But he wasn't able. He could see the possibility. He could even see some details of those griefless worlds. But he couldn't enter into them because of something in some closeness in his own human nature to lower possibilities. And he's had to plumb the very depths of that and find the key. So as somebody pointed out last week, this is in a way similar to an experience that the mother has described. It's not the same as her experience, because her experience had to do with the mental world. But in a similar way, she felt herself descending and descending and descending into a terrible, rigid blackness. But when she reached the very bottom, then she was cast up, she says, cast up forthwith into a wonderful space that was vibrating with the seeds of a new world. It's one of her New Year's messages, maybe 1955 or 56.
13 April 1962 in Shraddhavan. And Mother said, the death illusion. Everything is illusion when we love and love and love. Incredible.
Yeah.
But then everything is illusion.
All suffering is illusion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is the higher reality of pure delight, divine delight that he experiences if we listen to it.
Somebody tell maybe it's Aurovindō to us, but very, very deep and is not human. I have seen and I put somebody coming is in the beginning in English and after finish in French. Very, very obvious.
So anybody who likes to hear that wonderful recording of Mother's account of her experience can find out from Ganga Lakshmi when they can hear it in House of Mother's Agenda, the recording. Yes, Margaret?
I'm reading a Secret of the Veda, and the key is also, Secret of the Veda, the key is also that all the richness are in the highest richness.
Are in the subconscious, yeah, and they have to be released. Yes, so that is a very interesting legend which is there, not told as a story, but referred to again and again in the Vedas, which is one of these, what Sri Aurobindo calls the symbolic myths of the Vedic cycle. It's a kind of twin myth to the myth of Savitri. And yes, there in the deep subconscious cave, all the treasures have been hidden, stolen. A dragon is sitting on them. There are forces which prevent them. But the task of the rishis is to penetrate that cave. And then with the help of the cosmic gods to smash that whole mountain and free the wonderful cows of light who are hidden there. And then there's a deluge like we just had, a downpour, a huge downpour of all the divine energy onto the earth, fertilizing it and fulfilling it. So these are stories which reflect some deep universal truth. People can't hear you, dear.
I always was very touched, as a little person, how the simple people, this is the same that almost I listen in Europe also several times. You need to touch the bottom, there you can go up. I mean, all these sayings that the simple people say, they have always kind of much more deep things, no? Like, I don't know how they use it, but this is we listen that a lot, no? If you don't touch the real bottom, you don't get up.
But only with the divine help.
No, but they don't say that, but it's the same. Yeah.
So here we have in this canto this wonderful description of the experience of being freed from falsehood and suffering and distortion. So who would read next? I've forgotten where we were. Yeah, Patty, would you read? Line 11.
Assured of the bliss for which all souls were made, unmoved by fear and grief and the shocks of fate, and unalarmed by the breath of fleeting time, and unbesieged by adverse circumstance, it breathed in a sweet, secure, unguarded ease, free from our body's frailty, inviting death, far from our danger zone of stumbling will. It needed not to curb its passionate beats, thrilled by the clasp of the warm, satisfied sense, and the swift wonder rush and flame and cry of the life impulse's red, magnificent race. It lived in a jewel rhythm of the laughter of God, and lay on the breast of universal love.
Thank you. So Mireille was asking, what is this it? I think it is this great felicitous day, the lustre, the light of some rapturous infinite. And there within are these regions of the heart's happiness set free. It's this paradise of the life gods. So there's no fear and grief, nothing like the sudden shocks that fate gives us. There's no fear of the passage of time. It's not attacked by any adverse circumstance, as we so often feel here. That realm is breathing a sweet, secure, unguarded ease. Doesn't have to be on guard or protected. Just naturally it is immune. It's free from our body's frailty, the weakness of our human substance inviting there. It's very, very far from our danger zone of stumbling will. Our will is blind and stumbles and leads us into danger. But that world doesn't need to curb, it doesn't need to hold back its passionate, the strong, intense impulses of the heart. It doesn't have to in any way abstain from the clasp of the warm, satisfied sense, all the delights of the senses. It can enjoy those fully, and it can enjoy this intensity, this swift wonder, rush and flame and cry of the life impulses pulsing in the blood. There's a red, magnificent race. This whole realm is living in a dual rhythm of the laughter of God. And it's supported, it's completely held and supported on the breast of universal love.
The race here means what?
Rays of light, I think. Oh, race. This is a race. When you're excited and intensely delighted or full of intense feeling, it's as if the blood is racing through your veins. Yes, that gives the delight. Particularly it gives the delight to the body. Yes. And the body is supposed to experience that delight. Yeah.
So it implies that on this plane that has been suppressed, that here not allowed fully.
Because here we live in this mingled pain and pleasure. We live in a world of duality and opposite. And that is the difficulty. So part of this secret key of nature's change is that division ceased to be. There's no opposition, no division. The experience is of oneness, no contradictions, complete reconciliation, harmonization of all opposite through the divine presence.
Somewhere she will be saying that this guy is the God. You speak now.
Sorry?
This division,
yeah.
pleasure and pain, disguises the God for us.
Yes, it disguises the God, the divine for
Once
us.
it goes, then
He takes on this appearance of opposites, yes. Sorry, which page? Which line? 1:4, yes. Unbesieged, I add first circumstance. It's this word unbesieged is bothering you? Yes. A siege is when an army attacks a city or another army. It surrounds them and attacks from all sides. So our life often feels like that we're always under attack by circumstances that prevent us from doing what we want to do or being what we want to be. But in that world, it's completely unbesieged. There's no outside attack or pressure. Sorry? What is the process? No, this is just a state. At blessed moments, perhaps we can glimpse this state which is unbesieged by adverse circumstance. If we're sufficiently pure, if we're sufficiently aware of the divine omnipresence in us and in everything, then we can feel like this, a very advanced state. Immune, yes.
Immune, the unfiltered spirit of delight. Lustre is gleaming sunrise and moonflood. Along the lyric stream of breathless springs, in fragrance of the unearthly asphodel. The silence of felicity wrapped the event. A careless radiance smiled upon the eye. The murmur of inarticulate radiation trembled in the winds and touched the enchanted soul. Incessant in the arm of ecstasy, repeating sweet involuntary notes the sound of rapture flows along the hour.
Thank you. The spirit of delight is unfettered, no limitations. That spirit of delight in this paradise is immune from all attack and all diminution. No? So that spirit of delight is like a kind of shepherd. He is pasturing. It's a lovely picture of the pastor of the shepherd, cowherd, pasturing his gleaming sun herds and moon flocks. Flocks of sheep, herds of cows, of cattle. And these are the cows, the Vedic cows, the cows of light. The sun herds. And in the Vedic story and the ancient Greek story, these sun herds have been stolen, no? And hidden away inside the cave of the subconscious and have to be set free. But here they have been set free. They're wandering freely. The sun herds, they are full of light, and the moon flocks. The moon is that gives the delight, the soma of delight. No? So, the spirit of delight. He's the shepherd, and he's it's such a beautiful picture. I don't know whether Huta has tried to paint this. He's pasturing them, so they are eating the grass and the plants happily, freely wandering along the side of streams, griefless streams. The streams make such a happy sound as they pour through the fields. The lyric speed, it's as if they are singing a love song, the streams as they pass through. And those fields are full of the fragrance of the asphodel. An asphodel is a flower that grows wild in the Mediterranean countries. I don't know what its fragrance is like, but this is the fragrance of the unearthly asphodel. For the Greeks and the Romans, the real asphodel grew in the countries of the blessed souls, when they left our earth and went into the Elysian fields, the fields of immortality. It has a golden color, yes. That flower grows wild in Italy, and D.H. Lawrence, the novelist, has written a very nice essay about the asphodels growing in Tuscany.
Also in French, there's can remind a verse from Fashion with the fragrance of asphodel.
Yes.
Well on those.
It goes with these blessed fields. Yeah, that's where it grows. Yeah.
Is the name in French?
Yeah, I can't remember, but it's so very familiar.
It's the same word, huh?
It sounds very familiar. And it gives poetic here is fading release of Ulysses' valleys.
What? Sorry?
Fading release of Ulysses' valleys.
Of the Elysian valleys, yes.
Unfading release.
The heavenly fields, yes. Those fields are very quiet, where the shepherds roam in the hills, no? A silence of felicity wraps the heavens. It's very, very peaceful. And these high mountains, the heights, the higher levels, they are lit up. There's a careless, we could say also carefree radiance, a light shining like a smile on the higher peak. But there's winds, and the winds make a lovely sound also, a murmur, inarticulate ravishment. Ravished is when you're carried away by delight, out of yourself, seized by delight. And this is not formulated clearly, but something of that delight is expressed in the sound of the breezes, of the winds, trembled in the winds and touched the soul. That lovely murmur is felt by the soul. And there's also a sob of rapture. When we're in a state of intense delight, we may not be able to contain our feeling, and there's just a kind of sob, no? A sob of rapture along the hours. It gets repeated repeating that sweet, involuntary note of feeling embraced by ecstasy. That's a general description of that landscape and atmosphere. And then it goes back to King Aswapati. And the next line is about him.
I like also how beautiful the nature is and what is behind it. It's such a core where the earth is now so crowded that he created that we have around our real nature. How important it is because it can carry this world.
Yes. I think Sri Aurobindo wrote to Dilip Kumar Roy once. Dilip was kind of rhapsodizing about how beautiful nature is, no? Which we can do. And Sri Aurobindo said, yes, that's true, but the subtle worlds are so much more beautiful. And there's a little sonnet about the other earths, that intense beauty which is so much beyond our material nature that it can immortalize us as it is doing to Aswapati here.
For me, I look forward to comparing this to the new creation.
Yes.
Canto 3, it will be different.
What is more comparable actually is the description of the everlasting day in the first section of Book 11.
Is that where it becomes collective? Is that where it becomes collective? Because you described, this is just King Aswapati.
Yes.
Is that where it becomes?
Is what where it becomes?
In Canto 11?
In Canto 11 it is Savitri's experience.
Yeah. So it's not collective.
Of course it's a kind of parallel, and it's on a higher level. It's the world of everlasting day. It's also a symbol world. It's but these very, very beautiful descriptions of a landscape and an atmosphere and the beings living in it. It's a kind of parallel to this paradise of the life gods, but on a higher level.
You can call it the uncontaminated vital.
Uncontaminated, yes, unpolluted, pure, the spirit of pure delight, the griefless life, that's what it is, yes. And Sri Aurobindo says, we feel this possibility close to us. All of us feel that that's how life should be, no? But like King Aswapati, there's something in our human, even the substance of our bodies, which prevents us from entering those kingdoms. We can see them, we can dream of them. They may come back to us in dream and muse over and over again, these beautiful worlds, and they can help and uplift us. But in order for us to enter them, some kind of transformation has to happen. So that's what's happened to King Aswapati now.
This question about the collective would be part of that description in the new creation.
Right, yes. Yes, that's what's very striking in Book 3, Canto 3. First part is about the house of the spirit, King Aswapati's realization there. And then he sees this new creation, what the world is meant to become. And part of that is the perfect society also.
Auroville has gone through that subconsciousness and has found the key. So that means
they didn't hear you, Ramnarayan. Ramnarayan was saying this is Sri Aurobindo's own experience. He has gone there deep down into the subconscious and found the key. Yeah.
Then we can consider that as a human representative, he has gone there and found it. We don't have tried to go there.
No. I think it's not like that. That's why I want to emphasize that this is an individual realization. It worked for him, for Aswapati, for Sri Aurobindo. But it's not the end of Aswapati's quest. What Aswapati is searching for is the power that can bring about a divine life for the whole world. And he does not achieve that. Aswapati does not achieve that. The mother tells him, no, it's not time, wait. So then he begs her, he says, but it's all taking such a long time. How long have we got to go on like this, and we don't even get a glimpse of your glory? And won't you incarnate yourself and come to earth, incarnate some aspect of yourself and come to earth to help us, to speed up process? And she says, yes, it will happen. So as a result of, Savitri is born, and it is Savitri's work, Savitri's quest, Savitri's tapasya, her yoga, which in the end leads to this consent of the Supreme Divine, that yes, everything that you've asked me for, it will happen. It will be worked out by my trustee of action, eternal time. And then in Book 11, there's this wonderful promise of the Supreme Divine to Savitri herself, that what she has done, her victory, what it will mean first of all for her, and secondly, what it will mean for the earth. And promise at the end is this earthly life, the life divine.
The nature celebrates, because we are talking about that.
Sorry?
The nature celebrates because we are talking about that.
I don't know. I hope it hasn't blown all our computers.
Ma'am, how does that particular time of evil and darkness, that time, how does that get a lesson of goodness?
So I think it is not a time, Mosumi. It is a state. It's a state of consciousness. So this state of consciousness has to get eradicated. That when we talk about transformation, that's what we mean. Of course, as I said last time, there have been times and places on the earth when this consciousness has dominated certain groups of humanity, maybe the whole of humanity. But what is needed is that this consciousness gets completely eradicated from our human makeup. You know? Otherwise, it can always come back. So it's not confined to a particular time or place. It manifests in times and places. It gets hold of individuals and groups, forces them to express it. But if that consciousness is completely purified, transformed in humanity as a whole, then it can't do that. So when we talk about supramentalization, that's what we are thinking of, that complete transformation. Even of the substance. He says, look, all this darkness and falsehood and suffering, it's coded into this substance of our body. So that has to change.
But as Mother says, I think, that Aurobindo is not a revelation of this, it is
an action
straight from the Supreme.
Yes, that action has come, otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here at all. And it's going on. She says he is still continuing with his luminous consciousness, working for this change. So,
we understand, but the thing is, we don't have to go down to that.
No, we should not. We should not.
Because that work is done.
Yes, we should not. We should be always looking. But he obviously wanted us to be aware of this danger. Otherwise, these cantos wouldn't be here in the book. And there are other passages in Book 7, Canto 5, the finding of the soul. We always read that first section where Savitri finds her soul, first section, third section. But there's also this dream. She has a dream of the whole of human evolution and history, and all these difficulties are expressed there also. It's a part of the poem that's not often much read.